everybody, it's Kathy Ondas with Simply Cards by Kathy. It is Thursday, January 13th, 2022, and I am going to show you some cards using the Hello Beautiful bundle. The Hello Beautiful bundle is more abstract, a lot of shapes, and it consists of the whole Hello Beautiful stamp set, which is a photopolymer stamp set with lots of different abstract shapes for stamping and several really cute greetings. It also has the die shapes, which you have the hexagons and some circles, and these are interesting because they are actually together, and so that you can stamp two at once. So very different than anything I would usually buy or typically buy. It's one that I looked at, went back and forth and had to think about how I would use it and what I would do with it. And then as I thought of things, I went back and purchased it, and I'm really glad that I did. So I'm going to move this off to the side, and we're going to make two cards today, and I'm going to show you a third one. But before we get started, I just want to bring in the mini catalog and let you know where this bundle is. It is on page 50 of our mini catalog, and it shows you that it comes as a bundle. It also has some really beautiful matching designer series paper, and I'm going to bring that in for you here and show you. It is cut in 4 by 6 inch pieces, which is different than we usually get. And it has 48 pieces to the pack and 12 different designs. And you know our designer series paper is different front and back. So what I've done is pulled out just some of them to show you, and you'll see the front and then the back, and that's how all of these are. But just some really pretty papers, and a lot of these papers you could use, and they could be the star of the card, and you just have to add your greeting and maybe a ribbon or so. So very pretty, and we're gonna set those off to the side, and we're gonna get started. So we're going to make two cards. I'm going to show you the first. The second's going to be a surprise. This is our first card. It's a thank you card. I left the inside blank so that I can write a personalized message, but I just love the paper. And you can see that these papers have gold in them and really brings out the look of the paper. And like I said, many of these papers you could use just by themselves and dress it up, which is pretty much what I did with this card. So I'm going to move this over. I've done a lot of the prep work for us, and we're going to get started. So we're going to start with thick white cardstock. And this is 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to burnish this with my bone folder so I get a nice flat lay to the card. And then I like to use eighths when I cut my pieces and parts for my card. So what I have here is a piece of jade, and this is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then I have my designer series paper, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to adhere those to start our card. So I'm going to use my multi-purpose glue because that allows me to just kind of move my card or this layer around if I need to. Now, don't forget that we're in the midst of celebration, which is running through February 28th. And for every $50 you spend, you get to pick a free item. And in celebration, there are two, I'm going to call level 2 rewards, that if you have a $100 purchase, you can request those. So this is the back side of what we're using, and I think this is really pretty too. So let's put this on. There we go. All right. Now you don't have to remember the measurements because they're all going to be right down below in my video. Now when I was making this card, I went back and forth between the Just Jade, which is one of my favorite colors, and the Night of Navy. And I actually thought the Night of Navy looked better through the middle. So what I'm going to go ahead, this is just 1 inch, and it again is by 5 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to the front of my card. And this I'm just going to glue down. Right across the center here. Okay. Then I'm going to show you, I'm going to set this off and show you what I did. I had 2 scraps. One is Magenta Madness and one is our basic white. And with that, I used the 2 largest hexagons to cut 2 layers out. I used the largest for the Magenta Madness, and I used the next one down for the basic white. So that's how I'm getting my label for my greeting. I love these shapes for labels for our card. So what I'm going to do is just glue, first we're going to stamp our greeting. And this is where I'm going to bring in some of these shapes. And you can see on my photopolymer stamp that this, it does stain. But the thing to remember about that is it doesn't affect the way the image you get or your stamp. And this is a little bit larger block than I'd normally use because I have the others with my greetings on them already. So I just want to do, like I did here, a little bit of a background to stamp over. So we're going to make this a thank you card. And I want this to stamp so that I'm on a flat edge. So I'm going to ink up. I'm going to go ahead and stamp off twice. And then I'm going to bring in my piercing mat and stamp. And there's my image. Now you have to remember with the photopolymer stamps, you don't have quite the cushion that you do with the red rubber stamps, so that you need to use your piercing mat underneath to give yourself a good crisp image. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in my Night of Navy and just going to ink this up. And stamp it right in the middle here. Came out well. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue this down right on my Magenta Madness layer because I'm going to pop it up on the card with dimensionals. There we go. And then because it's going to go across the band, let me bring this back in for you. I'm only going to put the dimensionals right down the center, or across the center. So be careful when you're going to put this on that you have it down the right portion of the center. Because when I did the other one, I wasn't paying attention and I put the dimensionals going the wrong way. So here's our hexagon, and let's move it over a little bit. And there we go. So a really quick, easy card. And I'm going to leave the inside blank so that I can write a personalized greeting. So we're going to move this off to the side, and I'm going to bring in our next card. This card again is using the Designer Series paper, and we're using the thick white, again 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4, and we're going to go ahead and burnish this. And I can see I have ink all over my hands, so hopefully it's dry and I won't get it on anything. I'm going to go ahead. All right, again, all the measurements for this one will also be below in the video. So we have our card base folded, and we're going to go ahead and adhere a black layer. And this is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And again, all the measurements are going to be down below. So don't worry about copying those down. Now, the one thing I've found in using this bundle is that I love the dies to be able to use with other sets. And even the background stamps like I did with the Magenta Madness on the last card. So, now we're going to adhere our Designer Series paper, and we're going to use the polka dot back. And this is 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to glue this down, and I'm going to pull in my mat again. Isn't that gold and white stripe beautiful? I have to come up with a card to use that on. So I'm going to go ahead here, and again, just a very thin edge of black all the way around. And I'm going to set this off to the side. Now I want to show you what I did with these. I brought in, I cut the hexagons, and I used black for my base, and then I used the Designer Series, one of the Designer Series papers for the other, for the top of the hexagons. So I cut out 3 of each so that I could layer them. So this is the second largest and the third largest of the set. So let's put those back in here. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere all of these little hexagons to the black ones. And to do this, I'm simply making sure the points are lined up, and then they fit, you know, they're pretty even all the way around. And let's do the third one. Now, I'm going to show you when I'm done a third card that I was playing with and actually finished up right before I did this video. And I think it's one I'm going to do with you in the upcoming weeks. So these are 2 of the large ones. So again, second largest for these and third largest. And then this one, I used the third largest one, and I went down 1 more size. So I used from smallest to largest, the bottom 3. So I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to do this card in portrait. And I want to be able to just kind of layer these to make a geometric and abstract design for no special reason, just because I really like the way that looks. So I'm going to pop those up with dimensionals. And let me grab my dimensionals here. They're right in front of me. And we're going to, I'm going to put one on each corner. So I'm going to put my first one down because that's going to guide me with the others. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one here. As I played with this, and I spent a whole day playing with this stamp set, I really, really like the different things you can do with it, and you can use it with other stamp sets. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one down here so that there's just a little bit of space in between. And then this one's going to fit right in here. And I'm not stingy with the dimensionals because when I mail my cards and they go through the machine, I don't want them to flatten out. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this right in here. I really like the way that looks. I'm anxious to hear what you think. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my greetings, and we're going to use 2 greetings from the stamp set. And we're actually going to use our Whisper White stamp ink pad and Stamp on Black. And I'm going to use First You Are Amazing, and then This Calls for a Celebration. So let's go ahead and we're going to pull this in. So here's my First You Are Amazing, and we're going to stamp that in Whisper White. So how many of you have used Whisper White before? The one thing I find with Whisper White is you have to keep your pad inked. It dries out, but to re-ink it, it is really thick. And I'm going to turn it this way and just going to stamp. First of all, you're amazing. I like that. And I like it with the white ink. So all I'm going to do here is cut this out. So I'm going to bring in my cutter. Move this off to the side, and I'm just going to cut this so that it is right on the edge here. And I'm going to take Stampin' Dimensional on this side and adhere it. And because this is black paper, I'm going to go ahead and use a black Stampin' Dimensional. And I'm going to put one down towards the bottom. And you can see that this fits right on top of there, and my Stampin' Dimensional on the bottom. So here's the outside of our card. Now let's do the inside of our card. We're just going to open it up, and I cut a piece of 1/2 inch designer series paper, and I matched it to what was on the inside of the hexagons, and it's a 1/2 inch by 5.5, and I think I cut it a little long, so we'll just snip it off after we adhere it. So put it on the edge, and then I'm just going to turn it over and take my snips and snip it off. And then the inside of the greeting is This calls for a celebration. Now this I'm going to stamp in our Tuxedo Black Memento ink. I'm going to ink this up well. Okay, and again, I'm going to bring in my piercing mat because the photopolymer stamps stamp much better if they have some cushion under them. So here's our second card. I'm going to move this off to the side, bring both of our cards in. So here is our first card, which is the thank you. And then first of all, you're amazing. This calls for a celebration. So it'd be a really good congratulatory card for somebody that had an achievement. I really like the black, the white, and the gold. I'm going to bring in the one I told you I was fussing and playing with just to show you this, and we're going to do this at a later date. But with this, I wanted to play with the hexagons and see if I could make my own geometric pattern that I could cut out and frame and then just use it as my focal point for my card. So again, this is from the Designer Series paper, and I used the larger hexagon and then the next one down. And I used my thankful dies and cut out the thanks. So another card to play with as I've been playing with this. So while I didn't show you that today, I promise I will coming up real soon. But here's our two cards we made, and I'll add, take this one out of the way. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you some ideas of how to use the Hello Beautiful bundle and explore your love of stamping and paper crafting. Join me for a Facebook Live Monday at 1 o'clock. And I hope to see you there. And if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up so I can grow my channel. And see you soon.